5875 of the core bundle of submissions, sir. Bundle of submissions. The bundle of submissions 5875, right?
5875.
Yes, that's it.
Just a moment.
To do something with penmanship.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes. Right. You see the heading of that email from Kazim Ali dealing with. Could you come back now?
From
Dive for scuba tank retrieval.
yes,
That wasn't the plan on Friday. The plan on Friday was to retrieve divers, not just scuba.
no. From my understanding of this was like phase one, because they had had a meeting prior to this that I was not privy to. I wasn't privy to anyone afterwards either, but they had had a meeting prior to this where someone, I'm not sure who, raised a concern about the scuba tank that was in the elbow, the first elbow as soon as you come down the riser. And so this was like phase one, just to remove that before they allowed them to continue anything further.
Right. But that's meeting that you weren't at. But the preparation that you were doing was with respect to retrieving, as you say, let me go with that, phase one, to retrieve the tanks.
Yes.
Right. So that is not the same plan. When you say in your statement, you may have misspoken or misspoke. This was the same rescue plan which was being suggested by LMCS since Friday.
Yeah. It was working towards that same thing.
Oh,
But
that's
since-
what you meant.
Yeah. So
But
since
the
they had
preparation, the preparation that you would put in all those things together, the risk assessment, the method statement, if we go to them, you will see it has nothing to do with life. It has to do with the tanks.
right. So
You-
what I'm
you
saying
accept
is,
that?
yes, I accept that, because this was just to remove the tank first before they allow them to continue to do anything else.
And you also aware, well, you may not be aware, because you weren't at the earlier Sunday morning meeting when Kazim Ali Sr. said that he doesn't think the men are alive at that stage.
No.
But you heard about that?
Well, I heard about it during the commission, actually.
Or you weren't supposed to be saying that. You're not supposed to say that, eh?
I'm not supposed to say that, but
All right. But the removal of the tanks, if you're saying that in your witness statement at paragraph 60 is the same plan from Friday, so you are saying on Friday there was a plan to remove tanks first?
no, that's what I'm saying. It was on the morning of the 27th,
Sunday.
from my understanding, is when they raised the issue about the tank. And so that's why they wanted something documented to remove the tank first before they allowed anything else.
And you know that the presence of the tank was revealed from camera footage that went down into the
Yes.
pipe? You
Yes.
know that? As a HSE expert, I see you try to say Paria. You try to convey that they were concerned about the image with Osh, and that's what they were concerned about. But as a trained risk analyst, what was wrong with developing that plan to go down, to send people down there to remove the tanks first? Anything wrong with what they asked you to develop?
About this?
Yes.
No.
I just have about less than 5 more minutes, if so much. Is there anything I missed? Right. You had any encounter with, what's the name of the officer, Vishal? Have you told me? Last year I want to do is with respect to, I don't know if you have any training or experience in this area.
You want to do
Oh, sorry. I don't have any experience in this area. Rescue and evacuation from enclosed, confined areas. You have any training or expertise in that?
No training, no.
How you go about developing a team of rescuers to go into confined space, their experiences and all of that?
No.
And whether they should be drilled before and have experience, you don't know anything of that?
No.
Anybody in LMCS has that expertise?
I can't say off the top of my head now. I do want to mention, though, I'll be talking about the plan. I wasn't developing a plan.
Yeah, no.
Right. Just
No, Mr. Ali Senior was developing the plan, but they just asked you to do that assessment. Yeah. You understand that? We are holding you for things you're not responsible for, you know. LMCS, Right, is it, John? I think that's it. Is there anything else you missed? Or we should do it, or? Yeah, you'll make the chairman from up here. That's all I have for this witness, please.
Good. We will have a break.
Yes.
15 minutes, please. Mr. Ali, I've been given some instructions to ask you to make sure that you do speak into the microphone, not so close that it starts to distort. Do you know what I mean? You know, you've noticed that, I think, a couple of times yourself. So aim like I am at the microphone, all right? Speak slower if you can, because otherwise what we're trying to do is to record all of this so it can be transcribed later on, you see, so that when I'm writing my report, I've got everything that you say. And we're missing bits, and that's not going to be good. So please try and speak directly into the microphone, but not too close, all right? Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that wishes to ask any questions of Mr. Ali?
Yeah, I'd go.
Sorry, yes. Well, I'm just going to leave it to the end if you want. Yeah. Yes. Who do we have?
Sorry.
You're Nairi Alfonso?
Nairi Alfonso
Yes.
for the SWWTU.
Representing the union.
Yes, indeed.
Right.
So, good morning, Mr. Ali.
Good morning.
Mr. Ali, I noticed that you said you had experience working in what would be Petrotrin between 2010 and 2018, and then a short stint, always on contract with Paria.
Yes.
Yes. Could you give me an idea, in the HSC, to be fair to you, in the HSC departments, yes?
Yes.
Could you tell us, at what level you would have served in that department, or those departments for that matter?
Well, I started in the Petrotrin HSC Refining and Marketing Division as a trainee initially, and then I was offered a contract position as a safety specialist, as a HSC specialist, and then as a ESA and environmental safety assistant, which were basically all the positions available in HSC at that time. That required that I be an on-site person, auditing jobs, auditing the permit to work system, making sure all documentation was in place and so on. I was a team member on risk assessments and JHAs that were done for all tasks in the refining and marketing division, depending on where I was stationed. And just general HSC safety man work, basically.
Okay. If you could help me out, would that level be at well, it wasn't a managerial level. Was it like
No.
a supervisory level?
We were technically technical support and operations and just managing the HSC part of the work, the
Okay.
safety-related part of the work.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ali. Mr. Ali, I would have heard something in response to my learned friend, Mr. Peterson. I was trying to understand, the barriers, the role of the barriers actually, with regard to vapor that could come up from the pipeline. I'm sorry, I'm an attorney, didn't do much physics or chemistry or anything like that. But is the vapor coming up, or the vapor that can come up from a pipe, from that, that from atmosphere, that site, would that be heavier or lighter than air?
It would be denser than air.
It would be denser than air.
Yeah.
Okay. So if it's denser than air, it would do what? It would float at the top of the chamber, it would sink to the bottom of the chamber. Which one would it?
No, you would expect it to sink in air.
Okay. So if it sank in the chamber, what would happen to it?
Well, with the way the chamber is designed, it would be pushed out with the circulation of air.
I see. And there was some mechanism to monitor the quality of the air,
Yes.
to make sure that there was more vapor than oxygen or any other gas.
Yes, the quality of the air going into the chamber was monitored, as well as the quality coming out of the chamber was monitored.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ali. Mr. Ali, I noticed there were two manuals, which we have several copies of in different places in the papers.
Yes.
The Safe System of Work Manual and an HSC manual.
Yes.
Okay. And it is your evidence that in the time that you worked with LMCS, you would have updated that manual from time to time.
Yes.
So that's between January 2020 and one assumes the current time.
Yes.
To your knowledge, because you are the HSC person in charge of HSC and LMCS, has any change in either of those manuals taken place consequent upon the incident that happened on the 25th of February?
No, actually. We haven't updated the manuals until we get a full investigation with recommendations that we could consider.
So LMCS, in your area, I can't sadly with the entire position of the company, would not have gleaned any lessons from the incident that happened on the 25th of February and onwards?
Of course we would have, but we haven't updated the document until we get a fuller picture, basically.
Okay. I can see even from your narrative, Mr. Ali, that you described, I think at one point in time, a flurry of activity and some chaos on the barge and barge docks and various places. If that is the case, did you, in these manuals, is there any enhancement or change of the emergency response plan? Because that's part of your manuals.
Yes, but what I'm saying is, I know obviously we'll need to make changes as we learn, as we make learnings about the incident, but we haven't updated the manual as yet until we get a better investigation, because I haven't been able to investigate. I mean, we weren't allowed onto the compound to do an investigation after the incident because the gates were locked. Okay. So we haven't been able to complete an investigation, and so I don't have recommendations to be included in the updates.
No, I know. I understand what you're saying, Mr. Ali, that you haven't gone on to the compound and so on. But in terms of the management, let us say something that going forward, the company is still working and still doing jobs, I imagine?
No, actually, right now we are not.
Okay, I see. So if the company were to undertake another job involving diving, there are no takeaways that you have from this incident in terms of how you would respond if there was an emergency? Yes,
they are, but it is not put in writing as yet.
Did not put in writing yet?
Yeah. We don't have any plans right now to pursue work. And we are under a prohibition notice from OSHA for diving.
I'm having the same problem as the commissioners expressed. You do speak softly, but you also speak, like most Trinidadians, quickly. So just repeat what you said there again so I could hear what you said.
If I can remember what I said now, I believe what I was trying to communicate is that we don't have intentions right now to pursue work that would increase the priority of making those changes. So right now it's not really a super priority to update our documents. We're really looking at just making sure a full investigation and a clear picture of what happened took place through the commission.
Okay. That's unusual, but anyway. On the 25th of, from my understanding, we've seen several times, I wouldn't carry to the document, number 51, 52, 53, coming down the method statement. From your understanding, Mr. Ali, on the 25th, were there any hot works to be done on the riser at berth 6?
No, to my knowledge, there was no hot works to be done for the 25th.
And you maintain your position that the purpose of the two barriers, both the mechanical and the inflatable one, was a protective barrier between hot works and the contents of the line?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Just to help me understand something, Mr. Ali, because you're a unique person in that you've worked for Paria or work in the health and safety department of Paria and Petrotrin as well as LMCS. So, and you're familiar with the permit to work system from both sides, I must say, I would have to say.
Yes.
So when a permit, I heard all kinds of terminology, so I'll use the easiest one. When the permit to work was pulled, I think the time was 3/22, if I recall, on the endorsement. Does that mean, so I understand the works must come to a stop. Whatever you were contracted to do to Paria to do in terms of the repairs to the pipe and so on, that had come to an end?
Yes.
Okay. Would that pulling of the permit also mean, like an equal sign literally, that you could no longer conduct any work at all, meaning putting divers in the water, calling divers, bringing equipment to do the rescue? That would also be included in the stoppage of work or the removal of the permit?
Strictly speaking, no. I was actually strictly speaking, yes, because we can't do anything without a permit according to the procedure itself. But realistically, emergency response is not something that you would get a permit for. No one writes a permit for emergency response.
Well, actually, that was my impression from reading the documentation. So I don't want to use the word exemption, but I'll use it anyway. So I would have thought that if there was an emergency situation, then a specific permit would not have to be issued to allow you to rescue somebody. If somebody is drowning in the water, you would have to get a permit to go and get a dive or throw a life ring or, whatever is the right thing to save that person, would you?
No. So our emergency response started immediately when Andrew got into the water and checked around and did his sweep around the boat. We had no permits for that. Okay. So emergency response we initiated without a permit, as one would not have been given for that. Okay.
Since I say you're a unique person so far in terms of who have given evidence that you know this permit to work from both sides, if it is that, okay, at some point in time a conclusion is made that the divers are in the pipeline, a permit would have been required to go down into the pipeline as far as you know?
As far as I know, no.
So, and I know you came rather late on the barge, on LMCS's
I'm
barge.
sorry to interrupt you.
Sorry.
May I just ask in relation to that question you've just been asked? No permit is required for a diver to go into the pipe. Is that what you're saying?
I would expect no.
No. But permission?
Yes, because at the point in time that we were looking at sending divers into the pipe, Paria had seized control through their emergency response, their emergency command system.
The emergency command system had kicked in, for want of a better expression, and therefore it was in the hands of Paria.
Yeah.
So you would have needed permission from them to do anything in respect of effecting a rescue. Is that what you understand?
Yes, because they had a presence on site, control and work. We needed permission in this specific instance.
I'm sorry to have interrupted you.
Not at all, sir. So, and the Honourable Chairman has actually brought me to the point. So, okay, so you didn't need a permit. You needed permission. I accept that. So who, from that flurry of activity that you witnessed, who did you think you could get that permission from?
It would have been the incident commander, who I understood to be on land. I didn't know who it was at the time. And from our understanding, Catherine Balkasoon was the senior person representing the incident command team on the barge. Okay. So that's why we went to her.
Would Mr. Piper be the incident commander? Now that you say you didn't know at the time, do you know that him to be the incident commander now?
Yes, after the fact we learned that Mr. Piper was the commander, that he came into work and he took up that position.
And for want of a better term, the point person on site was Catherine Balkasoon.
Yes. Catherine and I believe Visham, but he wasn't always there.
I'm sorry, I lost you on the tail end there.
Catherine and Visham, but Visham wasn't always
yes, I see
present.
Visham, yes. And did, to your knowledge, or because you came, I say, late in the fray, I don't want to ask you anyone, did you ask permission of either of those Paria persons, either Catherine or Vishram? Did you ask them for permission to do anything?
Yes.
And what was that?
I asked them why we are not allowed to go into the water. I asked them why we weren't allowed to do the dive, because we had divers on site who had indicated to me that they were willing and that they wanted to go, but they were being held back. And so I went to her to ask, well, why are they being held back? Why aren't we being allowed? Can we send them? And the response, as I said, was that the response that I always got was that instructions was handed down that no one is to be allowed to enter the water and to perform a dive.
Was any reason preferred up by Ms. Balkasoon or Mr. I've forgotten Vishram's last name?
Haricharan.
Mr. Haricharan?
No, none that I recall being given.
Just nobody is allowed to go down?
Yeah, it was an instruction. I didn't really get a full reasoning behind it.
Okay. Did the Coast Guard in any way in the time that you were there, I'm not asking you what anybody else told you, did the Coast Guard have any role to play while you were there?
Not that I could see.
Did they say anything or give any instruction?
They were speaking with Catherine.
I see. But they never spoke to you?
Not to me directly.
I see. You would not have heard. Mr. Kazim Ali Sr. would have said, when he gave evidence, that immediately as he came on site, a simple plan was devised. I know you weren't there, a simple plan was devised in order to get the divers out, or at least to make an attempt to go down into the pipe, put somebody down feet first, give them air, tether them with ropes so that they could be pulled out and so on. You're aware of that plan?
Yes, I am.
Okay. To your knowledge, is there anybody you know that stopped that plan from being implemented?
No, I can't point to
Okay.
specific.
Thank you. In going through your health and safety manual, I saw some references to some familiar references. One of them was IMCA code, which is a code.
What is that?
And it's actually a code of practice for offshore diving.
What does it stand for?
I think it's Offshore Diving International Code of Practice for Offshore Diving. I hope I have it right. I know the other commissioner might correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, yeah, let me correct you. International Marine Contractors Association,
Okay, so,
IMCA.
Okay. So thank you very much for that, Commissioner Wilson. Thank you very much. I saw that reference, and in your manual, and it's specific to what you identify as critical services, which is diving. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Mr. Ali, is it that, and I did look, like everybody else, took a little Google and so on. I saw that reference in your manual. I didn't see any, any reflection in the manual of the code, of the contents of the code. Could you help me? Is there anything that LMCS has put in their health and safety manual or their safe work manual, which is reflective of the code? Because the code is like a guideline.
Yeah, well, the code
best industry standard guidelines.
Yes, well, best practices is what I'm about to say. So
yes.
The documentation that we have for diving at LMCS was developed by Mr. Andrew Farah, because he's our diving supervisor. I myself don't have any experience in diving, and so I defer all matters of diving to Mr. Andrew Farah. And so those documents are included just by reference, as you say, and we pull best practice from them as needed to be applied to diving jobs.
Could you? I know you're like myself. I have no experience in diving. Is there anything in particular you could point out in your manual that was culled or taken out or extracted from that code?
No, I can't say specifically.
Can I ask where this is going? If there's something in particular that you say should be in it and isn't, then by all means put it.
Okay.
But it's a sort of vague question to say, look at a code of conduct by some other agency, and then asking him what bits have you extracted from it or not extracted from it. If there's something particular you want, please put it to it.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Ali, I didn't see. Okay, you said you don't know what particular parts would have been removed from that code or absorbed or copied into the manual.
Yeah.
Okay. If I told you that I didn't see anything, any area reflected in the manuals that came from there, what would you say?
The safe scope of work manual, the 31st item, item number 31, is supposed to be our diving best practice guide.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what I was seeing in this code was a lot of stuff, I don't say stuff, a lot of items about harnessing and these conditions you would put somebody with, with using harness, using ropes, using, these kinds of things. Do you have anything like that reflected in your manual?
No, nothing to that extent. They're just general best practices, and then as they apply, our expert, Mr. Farah, will apply as necessary.
But you are the person principally who would have formulated or reformulated, to be fair to you, formulated or reformulated the aspects of the safety manual, either one of them, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll leave it there. I noticed in your emergency response plan, Mr. Ali at 1179 of your, I think that is your original witness statement. 78, I beg your pardon. 1178, towards the end. So the last 6 or 7 bullet points. You see those, Mr. Ali?
Yeah.
Okay. So I take it these were the risks that these were some measures if certain things happened in the hyperbaric chamber. I still like habitat, but anyway. Assistance to be rendered by standby divers in accordance with diving certification. And additional external assistance to be requested by on-site supervisor as needed. You see those 2 items?
Yes.
That's like the second to last, the third to last and second to last items.
Yes.
Okay. Did LMCS, to your knowledge, have a standby diver on the 25th of the 25th of February this year?
Yeah, there's supposed to be 2 standby divers on the crew. I don't know who is they rotate position. Sometimes people are part of the active work in the chamber, and sometimes they're out to kind of rotate people. So I don't know exactly who they were at the time of the incident, but we had 2 standby divers. And in addition to that, Mr. Farah himself is, of course, a certified diver, and he is not on the dive team. He's supervising. And Mr. Guerra, who we spoke about from the incident, is also a certified diver.
Okay. So I probably got it wrong. I thought the 2 standby divers were Mr. Farah and Mr. Guerra.
No, they were just extra people. To see how we have like extra divers who were going to be on site. They were there to function in Farah as a supervisory role, and Dexter just to be knowledgeable about the job. And then we had standby divers who were part of the crew who would have been suited up and ready to assist at a moment's notice.
And you couldn't help us what the name of those 2 divers would be?
No, they were rotating, so I'm not sure.
Well, one of them was Kazim Ali, wasn't it?
Well, so we heard afterwards, yeah.
At the time of the incident, he was the 5th man in the water.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be the standby diver. I think we've seen footage of him with a spanner in his hand going down into the chamber to pass the spanner to one of the people who was working.
Yeah, at the time of the actual incident, he would have been it. But what I'm saying is that they kind of rotate positions.
Yes, but we know that he was one of the standby divers at the time.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Commissioner, Mr. Ali. Could you tell me, in that second to last bullet point, on-site supervision, external assistance to be requested by on-site supervision. Who is that on-site supervision? That's LMCS or Paria?
LMCS, yeah.
I see. So LMCS, in their response strategies, have outlined that they would reach out to additional divers who may either be off-duty LMCS people or additional divers who are not employed by LMCS?
Yes.
Okay. To your knowledge, Mr. Ali, were there such divers who were on the scene on Friday night or Friday evening?
Yes.
The 22nd? Who
yes.
Somebody would have called out?
Yes. The prominent names like Corey and Michael and so on are the ones that we call.
Michael Kubaran?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Ali. Thank you for indulging me, and thank you to the Commission.
Welcome.
Yes, Mr. Buda.
Thank you very much, Chairman, for your kind indulgence. Right, there we go. Prakash Ramada, on behalf of the family of Kurbans and Yusuf Henry. Yeah. You have said something quite interesting, and you are knowledgeable in some level of science. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Yes. And you appreciate science requires us, if we are to find the cause of something, to take nothing for granted. You appreciate that?
Yes.
Yes. We've been hearing about the failure of this plug. What was the outer limit of the pressure that that plug could endure before it fails?
I can't say offhand.
But you appreciate all mechanisms will have a breaking limit.
Yes.
Correct. Now, you appreciate equally that water is at least 800 times more dense than air.
Yes.
Science tells us that fluids cannot be compressed, but air or gas could be. Yes?
Yes.
Within the plugged area, that is on the underside of that plug, was there a positive or a negative pressure acting upon that plug?
Within the line at bit 6?
Within the line, I beg your pardon, yes.
It would have been, well, relative to the chamber, it would have been less. I don't know if say positive or negative.
Right. So within it, there'd be pressure from the chamber pressing down onto the plug.
Yes.
Correct? Now, are we to be guaranteed that that circuit, if I may call it that, between 6 and 5 berths would have been cauterized, closed?
The content of the
Yeah, within that you as chairman so lucidly put on the board.
Yeah.
Was that a closed circuit?
Yes, the
Right,
line
beautiful.
at 5 is blank.
What would be the effect, for instance, if there was an immediate and sudden breach of that circuit, not at the plug end, but at another end?
Well, assuming that the plug holds,
Yes.
there would have been just seepage.
Seepage.
Yeah.
But it all depends now on the break point of the plug, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that the plug didn't shoot out as a projectile, meaning that there was a positive force pushing it out. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
So therefore, it was pushed in either by the pressure within the chamber and or a negative pressure created within the pipe. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Inelegantly yesterday, I said we needed to find out who's liable, but I really did mean, and I apologize, commissioners, to say what or who was responsible, which is why we're here. Is that circuit connected to some valving so that
No.
you could open or close?
No.
Okay. Another witness has told us that there's a valve on one of the lines, on that line.
On the U, after it has been disconnected?
Further up, wherever it was, that there's a valve. Are you in a position to help us with that?
No. To my knowledge, the line was broken at 5 and at 6.
Sorry?
The line was broken at 5 and at 6. The
5
top side
and
was
6.
disconnected. Yeah.
Thank you very, very much. Mr. Chairman, I'm most grateful to you.
Anyone else? Ms. Prasad? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Daly, I just have a few questions. Earlier in your statements, in your question and in your answer to Mr. Peterson, you said that the permit to work controlled the works to be executed. That's correct?
Yes.
Right. My question to you is, in relation to the work that is being done, what controls that? Sorry.
Our method statement is supposed to control the work that LMCS is executing.
And that's basically...
Any of that at all. You'll have to do that all over again, I'm afraid. So if you concentrate on what I've asked, that you speak clearly into that microphone without being too close, please.
I'm trying. What I'm saying is that our method statement is the instructions that we give for our work to be executed.
Right. And that will tell you the methodology.
Yes.
And is it fair to say that the methodology is developed during the course of the work, before the work is carried out?
Before the work is carried out.
All right. So, are you part and parcel of any process involved in the development of the methodology in that statement?
The development, no.
All right. Do you have any role in the communication with respect to the development of that method statement? Communication between Paria and LMCS?
Oh, yes. I usually submit it. The documents are submitted to Paria's. The person who holds the contract, essentially, Terence Rampersad Singh. And then he does a distribution of the documents for approval by Paria internally. and they just let us know when everything has been approved.
All right. And you were actually involved in that process in this contract?
Yes.
Paria. All right. Can he be shown the document at page 2924 to 5 of the updated supplemental witness bundle? Updated witness bundle. 2924. Right. This is an email. If you can go to the bottom, I think the chain of email starts at the end of the document. Are you familiar with this email?
Yes.
Was it you? I'm seeing a name there at the end of the page, Ahmad. That would have been you who sent this email to the sender is Terence Rampersad Singh.
Yes.
And he was the plan in relation to this project.
Yes.
All right. Can we scroll up now? To the questions. All right. So in this portion of mail, this was the first one that was sent. You were sending the method statement, the job safety analysis, and I'm sorry, I can't read that.
Lift plans.
And lift plans. Thank you. Right. So that was submitted to you via email. That's correct?
By me, yes.
By email. And thereafter, we have a response coming from, well, we have another email from you to Mr. Rampersad Singh. That would have been on the 4th of January 2022 at 3:59 p.m., 3:59 p.m.
Yes.
Right. And in that email, you're answering questions in relation to the method statement.
Yes.
Right. And if I can quickly read this out to you. It says to answer the questions asked. Can you say who were these questions asked to?
They were asked to. These questions were asked by Paria LMCS over, I believe it was a Zoom call, a Zoom meeting.
So it was not in writing. These questions were not given in writing.
No.
But you're responding to the questions that were put verbally, and they concern the methodology that was contained in the method statement, if we were to get this correct.
Yes.
All right. And you said, in answer to question one, will the inflatable plug also be raised to the top of the new riser section when cutting and welding for the new flange above water? The answer is yes. Both the inflatable plug and the solid barrier will be reinstalled at the top before hot works begin. Step 86 has been updated to reflect this. Now indicates, and in bracket you said, now indicates that steps 15 to 28 will be repeated, which includes both plugs and the barrier installation. I don't want to put words into your mouth. Can you explain to us what it is that you were communicating to Mr. Rampersad Singh in relation to the methodology?
Well, it's basically exactly as the question stated. I can't remember who exactly from Paria's end made this, asked this question, but the original revision 0 of my document didn't explicitly state that we would reinstall the plugs at the top, because after the top section of the riser was attached in the works that was taking place on the 25th, we had to execute a second cut much higher up.
Right.
So we had that we would install the barriers for the bottom cut, remove them, but I didn't put a line stating that we're going to reinstall them when we do the second set of hot work. And so this was just to clarify that, yes, That yes, our intention is to reinstall the plugs before we do the second set of outworks.
So in other words, the barriers had to have been removed from the subsea area,
Yes.
as we understand it now,
Yes.
and then reinstalled to the top.
Yes.
All right. And if we go further up in the email chain, we see that there is an email that was forwarded to, on this very chain, from, that would be Mr. Terence Rampasat Singh again, at 4:20 p.m.
Yes.
on the 4th of January, 2022. And it says, please review respective attachment. MS meaning method statement was reviewed, updated, and acceptable. So that methodology that you described with the removal of the plug and then the reinstallation was accepted by Paria.
Yes, it was.
All right. And that was, in fact, the work in question that was carried out on the that was the work that was being carried out on the 25th of February.
Yes.
All right. I know in your answer to Mr. Peterson earlier, you said you can't speak to if anybody from LMCs from the top of your head is qualified as confined space or has confined space certification. I noticed from your statement you did mention that Conan Bedo was present. Would you be able to say to the Commission if you're aware that he has confined space certification?
No, I'm not very familiar with Conan.
That's fine. All right. In the course of these proceedings, you're aware that OSH has been investigating this incident that occurred on the 25th.
Yes.
And as a result of that investigation, you're aware that they have an investigation report that was commissioned and produced by Enquiry Limited?
Yes.
Right. Have you seen that report?
I skimmed through the shortened version of the report.
All right. I would like to take him to the Enquiry report, please. It's at page 1398 of the supplemental core. At page 1398. So just look at this document. Is this the document that you're familiar with, as in the Enquiry report from the incident?
Yes, I haven't seen the full report, but this looks like the report.
All right. I would just like to quickly take you to page 1398. Read there. Under the rubric 3.3, under the rubric inflatable plugs. And at the point, but before I read this, you're aware that the plug was retrieved after the bodies were taken out and so forth from the pipeline at 36C line?
Yes, I was
Right.
told.
And that was supplied to Incotec
Yes.
for the purposes of investigation?
Yes.
All right. So I know Mr. Peterson has put a number of questions about the plug this morning to you, right? And I'd like you to read 3.3 for the Commission, please.
All of it?
Well, we can go to
Can we just identify the bits that matter?
the first sentence of 3.33. 3.3.3.
Both tests in the open and the test within the 30-inch pipe showed no evidence of leaks or defects which could have been contributory to the accident.
Continue, please.
It has to be noted that this plug held its seal from the date it was installed in the riser to the date of the accident.
All right. So in other words, there was no defect to the plug. That's what the report is saying there.
Yes.
And can you be taken to 3.35, which is on page 1399? And I'd like you to read the second sentence in that report, please, for the Commission's benefit.
3.3.5?
3.3.5, yes. The second.
The important point here is that the plug held its seal under the operating habitat pressure up to and until attempts were made to deflate it, to facilitate removal from within the riser.
Right. So in other words, for the benefit of our understanding and your understanding of what is saying, I know this is not your report, but your understanding of what is being said here, in relation to the integrity of the plug, the investigator is saying that the plug retains its integrity.
Yes.
Yes? All right. In relation to a question asked by my learned friend in respect of the updates to the manuals, the safety manuals from LMCS, you said it's not a priority to have the manual updated at present. Would you be able to say why it's not a priority?
As I said before, LMCS is not currently actively seeking work for which the manuals would be the guidelines for. And so we're spending all of our effort and time on the commission right now. And so when we get more information, updates like this following an incident especially are particularly dependent on accident investigation and the recommendations made in those investigations and their reports. So until we have a proper idea of exactly what happened, and we have, I mean, in this case, probably going to be multiple reports stating what recommendations should be put into place, those will guide how we update our manuals and our work in future.
All right. And my final point of clarification, in relation to the question that my learned friend asked you, Mrs. Peterson, in relation to the amount of content taken out from the riser, the 2 barges, just for clarification, because it wasn't clear, the 2 barges of oil that you have mentioned that was taken out, that was from your understanding, the riser or the top side only?
My understanding is the barges was from the riser as they were clearing space.
Right. I think that's all for the clarifications.
Thank you, Miss. Right. Anything else? Mr. Maharaj? Thank you very much. There are some questions from my co-commissioner. I wonder if you can help him, please.
Good morning, Mr. Ali.
Good morning.
I'm happy to hear that you actually had a stint at Paria, which could probably help clear up some stuff with me. In your HSE experience, working both with an operator and a contractor, is it the norm where an operator depends solely on the contractor to provide a risk assessment, or is this usually a collaborative agreement in your experience?
It's usually a collaborative experience.
And, all right. And this is again, in your experience working with Paria and contractors.
Yeah.
So usually you bring all the stakeholders to the table to generate and participate in a risk assessment.
Well, no, not usually.
Okay.
It may not be like a fully collaborative desktop update, but they will be worked on by multiple people before a final version is issued.
By all stakeholders,
By all stakeholders.
Of the project, right?
Yes, yes.
But in this case, they indicated that LMCS was the one that generated the risk assessment for approval by the operator. Is that a usual practice?
That is the practice they put into place recently, yeah.
Put into place recently?
Yeah, well, Paria's.
Paria's. In your experience as a HSE professional, is that industry best practice?
I can't say. I don't want to speak outside of my...
No problem.
Yeah.
When So I'll deal with LMCS now and your role at LMCS. When you are generating a risk assessment, do you do that in a silo or do you collaborate with a team?
It's collaborative with a team, but again, it's not usually a desktop. So I would usually do a first draft and send it for review around for the different people to put in their input or, recommendations.
So just to be clear, your risk assessments are not done like in a room with all the stakeholders of the project giving input into the risk assessment. You generate it and you send it around, distribution by email or hard copies or?
Well, it depends on who I'm trying to reach and how it's best to reach them.
Okay, so not really in one room, just distribution and approval. All right. Do you think that's best practice to do that? And or you can achieve optimal identification of hazards and mitigation through that sort of methodology?
Yeah, I believe it's possible to achieve that.
Okay.
It's probably better to have everybody sitting in a room, but especially after COVID, that is not really ideal how we could get it done.
Understood. All right, so that's that question. The other question, again, in your experience as a HSE professional, when we went to the sequential steps and those sequential steps changed, I heard conversations and that conversations were had and then they referenced the email. But in your experience as a HSE professional, how do you usually capture sequential step changes to advise your team of documenting and controlling those changes? Because the changes are really to represent once a change is not like for like. How is that captured and managed?
Well, if the change is not like for like, we have to revise the document. Usually
Which document?
The method statement.
Right.
It's not the method statements that we would generate. So that's why we have multiple revisions. If there are any queries or if there are any changes to the methodology, we revise the document. If there are like-for-like changes, it's been practice. I don't think this is best practice, but we've...
Sorry, you don't think it's best practice?
I don't know. I don't think it counted as best practice, but if it's a like-for-like change that is agreed on the morning of, for instance, we will basically revise the documents live and just countersign the document. So a person from Paria would sign, and a person from LMCS would countersign to agree on the changes that are being made.
And how are those changes distributed or communicated to your workforce on site?
Well,
capturing, let's just say those changes, there's some risk that could arise in that. Is there a process that captures everything that you now can effectively communicate those changes to the work site?
Toolbox talks.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. I want to revisit the incident report. As a HSSE manager, I think I'm hearing, and I'd like you to clarify it for me, you are dependent on the findings of this commission to assist LMCS with their incident report and or the learnings, anything that comes out of incident report with that?
Yeah, well, y'all and whoever else does reports, because we aren't able to first-hand investigate to report the incident ourselves. I can't really I could generate one-sided based on what we did and how we could change our end. But in terms of like getting a bigger overall picture of what happened and recommendations that we need to put into place like system-wide, I would be advised by recommendations coming out from people who investigate it further.
All right, I'll take that, but I'd like to offer further any considerations for initial incident reports or anything that coming out whilst this process is going on. What did LMCS do, or you or your appropriate delegates do to initially collect all the information pertaining to the incident so that LMCS can carry out incident report or even a root cause? And I'll tell you why I'm going with this. It's that you are a STOW member. And I think in getting that STOW accreditation, you would have been integral in contributing to getting that STOW membership. To be effective as a STOW member, you would have to be first in incident investigation report. So that's why I was a bit taken aback when you told me you're dependent on the commission to provide you with your incident report, your root cause analysis.
Well, I don't want it to come across as we are depending on the commission.
And that's what I'm trying to clear up, yeah.
What I'm saying is that we are not right now in a position where making these changes are a huge priority for us, because these changes would affect work.
Yeah, so just to clarify, sorry to cut you, I'm not talking about the safety management system in terms of improvements there, lessons learned. I'm talking about an incident happened, we had fatalities, we had injuries. Did LMCS do an incident report?
Yeah, we did a preliminary incident
Preliminary incident report. Oh, great, thank you. The final thing I want to take you to is on the emergency response 1179. Right. I want to look at the last bullet point, and I think in your role at LMCS, I'm particularly interested in medical intervention to be requested on-site supervision in all cases of breathing airway difficulties and or cases of suffocating underwater for any length of time. So, in this emergency response, did you have a hyperbaric practitioner, a doctor on call, so that this emergency response could be activated?
No, my understanding is that we don't have a formal relationship, but OSTL would have been the on-call person that we contacted for use of the hyperbaric chamber.
No, hyperbaric practitioner, doctor, because medical intervention to be requested by on-site supervision. So let's just say, bam, an incident happened. It doesn't even have to be the Delta P. Incident happened. Who does his supervisor call?
I don't want to be too presumptuous, but I believe it's Dr. Coombs. He could refer to Andrew Farah for clarification on that, but I believe it's Dr. Victor Coombs.
Okay. So in your capacity as the HSE manager, is there a communications plan, an emergency response plan that shows incident and the doctor is Dr. Coombs with his emergency response number readily available?
No.
No. So that's what I was kind of wondering. I mean, the emergency response plan seems quite light.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for your time, Mr. Ali.
Well, look, does anyone have anything arising from any of that? No? Thank you. Well, thank you very much for coming, Mr. Ali. I think it took a little bit longer than we anticipated, but thank you for coming anyway. And you're now free to go, or you can stay as you please, but thanks for your contribution. Thank you. Right. This gentleman will take you. I think next we have Mr. Ramdhan. Is that right? I think, given the time, what we're going to do is we'll have the summary. Is he to be summarised? Let's have his summary. Then we'll break for what I hope we will all agree is going to be a 45-minute lunch. So let's have his summary, and then we can break off and have our lunch. All right? Do you anticipate that he might be a little while?
Not from us, sir. We think he's quite fulsome in his statement. So
Mr. Maharaj, I think you have some questions for him, do you?
Yes, I have questions for him. I would probably be about 45 minutes with him.
Right. And everybody else, 5 or 10 minutes, something in that order? Maybe a bit longer. I see a head being shaken by Ms. Passant.
I may be a little longer.
All right. Okay, I get the picture. Well, we'll take stock once once Mr. Maharaj sits down. All right, as to what we were able to do for the rest of the day. All right, then let's have it.
Maharaj will do the summary.
All right. Thank you very much. Has somebody gone to get Mr. Ramdhan?
I, Jonathan Ramdan,
solemnly
swear
that the evidence
that the evidence
I shall give to the Commission
that I shall give to the Commission
in this case
shall
be the truth,
be the truth,
the whole truth,
and
nothing but the truth.
Thank you, Mr. Ramdan. Do I pronounce your name right? Ramdan, is it?
Ramdan.
Ramdan.
Yeah.
Mr. Ramdan, you're going to hear shortly a summary of the evidence that you have provided to us already, all right?
Yeah.
That summary is going to be read by Mrs. Maharaj. Listen to it carefully, please. If you agree with it, then she'll ask you at the end if you do, and if you do, great. If not, please point out any flaws or anything you think we need to know about, all right? After that, Mr. Maharaj, unrelated, I hasten to add, is going to be asking you some questions on behalf of the Commission. When that's finished, we'll have some questions from others who are interested in these proceedings, all right?
Okay.
That's the lay of the land. We're going to take our lunch break after this summary has been read to you, because we're right up against lunch now, all right? But it'll only be about 45 minutes.
Okay,
all right?
good.
All right, thank you very much. Mrs. Maharaj.
Mr. Jonathan Ramdan submitted a witness statement to the Commission dated 30th September 2022, and it's in the witness statement bundle at page 1468, volume 4. Mr. Ramdan is Paria's operations team supervisor in the Terminal Operations Department. He reported to Visham Harichan, who was Paria's offshore team lead. Mr. Ramdan says that following his training in the permit to work procedure on 10th November 2021, he was authorized to sign and issue permits to work. Mr. Ramdan explained that part of the pre-work done by LMCS involved the draining of product from the pipeline at berths number 5 and 6 in accordance with the Paria's work instruction dated 5th January 2022, which was developed by the offshore section of the Terminal Operations Department, and that document is a core bundle number 1033. Mr. Ramdan states that the draining of the pipeline at berths 5 and 6 by LMCS was done in 2 phases between the 18th of January to the 3rd of February 2022 by air blowing the content into a slop barge. He said that LMCS then removed the elbows connecting 36C line to berths 5 and 6 so as to isolate the pipeline to be repaired, which meant that the pipeline would be totally isolated from the berths, leaving a U-shaped pipeline in the water. Isolation checklist dated 12th November 2021, 31st January 2022, and 10th February 2022 were prepared and approved by Paria after each phase of the process, and those can be found in the core bundle at pages 1023 to 1025. On the 25th of February at 8 a.m., Mr. Ramdan posted his subordinate, Mr. Kurt Scott, an offshore operator employed by Kenson at berth 6 to monitor and safeguard the operational establishment during the course of the works being done by LMCS. At 8 a.m., Mr. Houston Marjat Singh brought the relevant permits to work for Mr. Ramdan's signature as site authority. This included the main permit to work number 9320 for the various maintenance works at berth 6. Mr. Ramdan explains that the permit to work is valid for a maximum of 7 days, and that permit to work number 9320 was a duplicate of another permit issued during the course of the maintenance works that expired prior to the February the 25th. Mr. Marjat Singh gave Mr. Ramdan a briefing on the status of the job and tasks described in that permit, and also indicated that LMCS would not be doing any hot works that day. Mr. Ramdan confirmed that the elbows were still disconnected from the pipeline and that the berths were in a safe and inactive state with all the valves closed. He also confirmed with Mr. Marjat Singh that the migration barrier was still installed and would be used for the course of the day's work. Mr. Ramdan says it was critical for the barrier to be used during the works to be conducted pursuant to permit to work 9320, since even after the draining of the line, there was still product in the line. He says the removal of the migration barrier could pose a danger to divers by allowing hydrocarbon vapors to escape into the divers' working area in the habitat. He says that this in turn could cause a toxic working environment and or a flammable working environment during hot works. He also stated that he checked to ensure that all of the valid documents were attached to the permit to work. This included the job safety analysis at the core bundle 1062, page 1062, hot work certificate, and LMCS method statement, which is at core bundle 1048, which sets out the step-by-step approach to execute a task, process, or procedure. After receiving the briefing from Mr. Marjad Singh, Mr. Ramdan performed his duties as site authority, which is set out in Paria's permit to work procedure, which is at the core bundle, page 30. In his witness statement, Mr. Ramdan lists some of these duties and described how he carried out those duties in relation to permit to work 9320. With respect to his duty as site authority to ensure that a suitable and sufficient job safety analysis was prepared, he stated that he was not trained, nor did he possess the expertise to assess the suitability or sufficiency of the job hazard analysis attached to that permit. He says that this was the responsibility of Paria's HSEQ and technical and maintenance departments, and that his role was to ensure that the job hazard analysis had been so approved, which he did. Mr. Ramdan filled out section B1 of the permit to work and wrote the status as line drained and the wrote the status of the line as line drained and the instruction migration barrier to be used. In section B2 of the permit to work, he wrote care to be taken when weather conditions change. In relation to his duty as site authority to ensure through face-to-face discussions and or site visit that the person in charge of the activities at the job site knows about the exact location of the works, the hazards present and the precautions to be taken, Mr. Ramdan says that Mr. Marjad Singh was in charge of the activities on the job site and he had his discussion with him face-to-face. Mr. Ramdan further explains that the main hazard present was the escape of fumes into the habitat, which could cause a toxic environment or during hot works become combustible. He says he discussed the hazards which could affect the job with Mr. Marjad Singh and made a point of writing on the permit that the migration barrier was to be used. In relation to his duty as site authority to periodically monitor the ongoing work, Mr. Ramdan states that he monitored the work through Kurt Scott, who reported to him periodically and sent information about the maintenance of the site conditions and precautions. In respect of his duty as site authority to suspend the job if unsafe conditions developed or were likely to develop, Mr. Ramdan says that Kurt Scott did not report to him any unsafe conditions prior to the incident, and he had no reason to suspend the job prior to the occurrence of the incident on February the 25th. Mr. Marjad Singh stated that he signed and handed the permits to work to Mr. Marjad Singh for supervision of the execution of the works described therein and performance of his other functions under Paria's permit to work procedure. He told him to ensure that safety talks were held prior to starting works so as to ensure that everyone knew the plan for the day, the hazards of the job, and the precautions that needed to be taken. Following the accident that day, Mr. Ramdan went to Burt 6 to investigate what happened. He arrived at 3:12 p.m. and spoke to Kurt Scott, who indicated he observed a splash on the screen and that LMCS was not giving him information. Mr. Ramdan said that LMCS's personnel appeared to be in shock and disbelief, and he tried unsuccessfully to get information from LMCS. Mr. Ramdan further stated that when he arrived, he did not observe any diving going on, and no one appeared to be in charge or actually responding or attempting to respond to the incident. He further states that no one came to him as the Paria representative on the barge and said what happened, what information they had so far, and what plan they had for the search and rescue of the missing divers. Mr. Kazim Ali Sr. told him that 5 divers were missing in the water, and he only had one more diver available, who was Andrew Farah. Mr. Ali also indicated to him that Mr. Farah had checked inside the habitat and did not see any of the missing divers. Mr. Ramdan says that Mr. Ali did not make any request of Paria for information, assistance, or for LMCS to be part of the incident command team. He also stated that there was no response from LMCS to his request to be able to see the camera footage of inside the habitat before the splash was seen, and LMCS did not respond to his several requests for more information, including his request that they seek additional divers to assist. Mr. Ramdan stated, therefore, that the only information he managed to gather was the missing divers were in the water, and he therefore activated Paria's emergency response plan by instructing Leandra Singh to have launches and tugs dispatched to perform searches within the harbour for the missing divers. At about 4:15 p.m., Paria's Visham Haricharan arrived on site, and he, Mr. Ramdan, passed on the information he had to him. At 4:48 p.m., Lieutenant Hargreaves of the Trinidad and Tobago Coast Guard called Mr. Ramdan and requested information. Mr. Ramdan stated that Mr. Hargreaves indicated that there was a dive crew on the way to Berth 6, but they would not be able to enter the water without the approval of Hargreaves' supervisor. At approximately 5:22 p.m., Mr. Ramdan heard shouting and banging from the habitat. The only diver LMCS had at this time was Andrew Farah, and he had been requested to go onshore to meet with the incident command team. Mr. Ramdan therefore immediately instructed Mr. Farah to return. At approximately 5:26 p.m., a pirogue arrived with Michael Cuban and another diver. They were apprised of the situation by LMCS and immediately entered the water to attempt a rescue. Later, at about 5:36 p.m., Mr. Ramdan saw Michael Cuban emerging from the habitat with Christopher Budram, who was covered in oil and who shouted, we're blacks, and them fellas right behind." Mr. Ramadan overheard Visham Haricharan telling Michael Cuban and the other divers that the incident commander instructed him to inform them that they were not permitted to enter the pipeline due to the high risks involved. And Michael Cuban aggressively responded by saying his father was inside the pipeline and that Paria could not tell him to not go in the pipeline. Mr. Ramdan did not observe any reaction of the Coast Guard to the instruction passed by Mr. Harichan. He says that no one attempted to intimidate, threaten, or physically interfere with the divers to get them to stop entering the pipeline. He also stated that the diving continued without interference for about 45 minutes after Mr. Harichan passed on the instruction. At about 6:30 p.m., Mr. Cuban came out of the water, and they didn't resume diving after that. Mr. Ramdan overheard Mr. Cuban saying that they went in and saw no one, and they encountered some air tanks lodged in the pipeline, which made it hard to pass and check further. Mr. Ramdan also made 2 trips to Berth 5, but he did not hear any noises coming from the riser. He left the site at sometime at about 9:30 to 9:30 p.m. on Friday. Mr. Ramdan, is that an accurate summary of your evidence?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Beautifully timed, if I may say so. We'll take our short break now. Can we resume then at 1:45, please? 1:45. Thank you, Mr. Ramdan, and we'll see you at 1:45. Thank you very much.